This is a simple, straightforward film, albeit somewhat amateur, about the economics of moving and handling flour after the miller has actually milled it into a bin. It's an attempt to bring home to our customers how laborious, time-consuming and uneconomic it is to move flour about in small parcels. Just look at this typical scene in a bakery. Very probably you see it every day, but I wonder how many of you realise just how unnecessary most of what this fellow is doing really is. Think of the time running backwards and forwards and how much that's costing in terms of his labour. Think of the possibility of bits of string, labels and anything else that may be adhering to the bag when it's tipped or going into the dough bowl. Think of the physical effort of lifting these bags about the bakery. Think also of the small amount of flour that's left inside the bag every time you tip one, although of course paper bags are less likely to hold the flour than were the old jute bags. This will appear to you to be somewhat long and boring part of the film, but that's the way it is, and it is intended to be so, to endeavour to bring it home to bakers just how slow it is. In this particular bakery they use a long sleeve with a cover because it comes down quite a long way from the loft into the dough bowl, and if there was no cover the flour would splurge over the edge onto the floor. Well, he's filled his dough bowl and he's going to shove it under the mixer. Let's hope he gets it straight on first time. Yep, there he goes. Well, now a different part of the same bakery, where we're on the ground floor, and the flour has to be lifted up onto a trolley with no inconsiderable effort, as you can see. Poor old Jim there nearly burst his blood vessel when he did that last one, and if he doesn't watch out the whole bloody lot's going to go on the floor. And there, look at that. Anybody think he did it purposely? However, the cameraman says that it just happened, which just shows you how, again, a lot of unnecessary work this all is really. If it was in bulk, there'd be no problem, no wheeling about, no getting ruptures from lifting the bags, no getting rubbish in the flour in the dough bowl. Here they have a small elevator which lifts the flour, sieves it and drops it into the dough bowl. Again, humping it, pulling the cotton out, etc, etc, etc. Alright, well, I suppose some of you could nod off because you've seen it all before so many times, haven't we all? This chap's being very conscientious about emptying the bag and making sure all the flour comes out. I'm quite sure that they're not all like that. Yes, you see, all rather long, drawn out effort. 200 weights of flour into the dough bowl. Well, now, we decided to go and have a look in Germany, because we had heard that there they are the small bakers, and I'm referring to the small bakers more especially, have developed various systems to deal with this problem, and we looked at 2 small bakeries where they have their flour delivered in small quantities in bulk. As you can see, they're the connection pipes, which there they're geared up for taking 2 sorts of flour, wheat flour and rye flour, 2 bags in the back for storing the 2 different varieties. In this case, they are made of a nylon woven fabric, which has several advantages, one of which is that you can see what's in the bag or in the bin without having to open the lid and have a look inside. The other, of course, is that you need no filter when the flat bag is being filled up, because the air simply comes through the material. And funnily enough, the flour doesn't. I know I couldn't believe this, but I couldn't see any evidence of this happening at all. Those pipes at the bottom are the fluidizing pipes, which fluidizes the flour. Here you can see in the bakery the weigher over the dough bowl. This chap simply has 2 ropes which he pulls, rather like pulling a lavatory chain. It's as simple as that. When the right hand one starts the blowers and pushes the flour into the weigher, and when he's got the correct weight, he stops it. As simple as that. In fact, he seems to like doing it. I couldn't demonstrate it more dramatically than that when he wants flour. Then we went a little further away into another village, and here was a typical one-man bakery. He doesn't employ anybody in the bakery but himself, and as far as we could understand, he was doing between 1 ton and 1.5 tons of flour and rye flour per week, which isn't bad. Of course, he didn't do any confectionery at all, it was all bread. Again, if you look round the side, there's the 2 little pipes which through which the flour is blown from the tanker. Done it rather attractively inside. It looks rather like an old barn which has been converted. There again, he's got 2 of these bags, which are bags which go up and down on the edge of the hopper so that you can get more in. The grey pipes are the fluidizing pipes, blow air into the hopper to loosen the flour so that it will flow out. In the centre of the hopper at the bottom is the portion where the flour is extracted by a suction. Just there in the centre, along that grey pipe to the right. There is the blower fan for the fluidizing air. It's as small and as neat as ever you could want. That grey trunking in the middle is the portion which divides the air up to the various fluidizing points. They don't open all at once, they open in turn like a rotary valve, so that the fluidizing air goes in at different times. There are the 2 fans for sucking the flour out of the bin, along the pipe, into the weigher. There's a filter on top of the weigher which filters out the majority of the dust, and the rest of it is taken out by those 2 sleeves, although they look very clean, so I think the filter in the weigher itself had taken nearly all of it out. It's a view of his bakery. In the centre you see his weigher, and there are two dough bowls served by the same weigher with a sleeve feeding the flour into them. Just behind the weigher you see the dial, and instead of having, oh yes, and on the right hand side at the top you can see the blow line pipe coming into the weigher. There he's set his dial to the amount of flour that he wants, presses a button, starts the blowers, and the flour, as you can see from the second needle on the dial, comes round, and when it reaches the first needle it'll stop, cuts off the flour, so he's got the desired weight, or he can put more in if he wants to. Then he just pulls that lever and the flour drops out into the dough bowl. Very simple, and he hasn't moved away from the dough bowl in the whole process. Then you've got to go upstairs, humping bags of flour, with the possibility of bits of string and labels in it. When he's tipping it, very simple, very easy. Now he's one man operating that bakery, and he does it completely on his own. And the flour, when it arrives in the dough bowl, is nicely aerated. We'll demonstrate the filling process again. In fact, he has two bins, one rye, one flour, and he can put half wheat flour into a mix and half rye flour. He just has to press the right button. There you see the blow line, which is completely self-cleaning when it's finished. Each time it's finished, it clears completely. A very efficient, neat little bakery. There he is, pressing the buttons to bring the flour up for the next mix. All highly organised. Now, bakery of his size in this country I don't believe would dream of having it. Now we come back to the mill, to the other end of the process. The flour has been made, and relatively little labour has been used to do so, compared to because now as soon as one puts flour into a bag, this is where one's problems begin. You can see we're relatively well automated here with an automatic weigher packer. The fellow only has to put the bags on and the machine does the rest, with the exception of the sewing. This machine will do about 300 bags an hour and is just about fast enough to feed a lorry driver at the other end. But you see, bags now are 70% more than they were in January 1973, which is just over 18 months ago. That's a big increase in cost. Labour, of course, is going up every year with regular monotony or monotonous regularity. Now here you can see we're having to store some of the flour as it's packed in the warehouse, and this chap is taking them off the belt and putting them on the trolley to move them away to another part of the warehouse. Again, a relatively laborious, and if it was in bulk, of course, unnecessary process. There he gets 4 on a trolley and removes it away and stacks it up. There's a general view of our warehouse, which where you can see the warehouseman preparing to load the lorry outside. Those dark patches on the floor are rubber bands which carry the flour along to the doorways on your left there, where the lorries park up. Now we see the flour coming along that rubber band from the packer direct in this particular instance. We've done our utmost to cut the labour down as far as possible, and about 50% of the flour that is packed goes straight along this rubber band onto the lorry. I must apologise for the film here. It seems to have gone slightly slow motion. I can assure you these blokes do go a bit faster than this when they're loading. Again, you see 2 men on a lorry, 2 men on the packer, 4 men, which if it was bulk you would only need 1. Most of the journeys that we do now are beginning to require 2 men to deliver the flour, simply because whereas the flour was delivered in 140s, it's now delivered in 70 pounds, which of course by simple arithmetic is twice as much walking, and therefore twice as long. It takes twice as long to deliver into a bakery. In order to get the work done, we have to send 2 men. The most a man can reasonably be expected to shift in a week is about 40 tons of flour. Here we see them neatly stacking it on the lorry, ready for taking out the next day. Again, a long, time-consuming, laborious process. Now we got a view of a typical backyard of a baker, a London baker who shall be nameless, where the usual procedure of fitting the ladder in the right place and opening the door and getting everything ready, tidying up inside. But often we have to do that too. And you can see from this picture how far these chaps have to walk along the passageway, up about 20 steps and inside to the bakery store. It's a lot of walking, and really, when you consider it logically, should be completely unnecessary. I'm saying all this because I feel that our future is tied up with the future of the small baker, and I can see that it is going to get more and more difficult to get people to do this sort of work, which after all is sheer humping and hard work, no more no less, and it's going to be difficult to get the paper bags, and certainly it's going to be more expensive as time goes on. And to me, or to us, the answer seems to lie in bulk. Now here's another bakery where they're delivering 100 weights this time, which of course is a third again heavy, and you can see it's some effort to push himself up that ladder with 100 weight on top. You can see the physical effort needed to pick these bags up so they're high enough to get them on your shoulder. These 2 chaps are pretty expert at it, but you get an amateur on it and it doesn't look half as easy as this. And there, look at that, you see, up on his knees. It's hard work, gentlemen, there's no 2 ways about it. Damned hard work. And this, let me tell you, is being done on a lovely sunny day. You imagine what that's like when it's pouring with rain, and it does often enough. Those chaps come home absolutely drenched, with flour caked all over them. And there you are on that close-up, you see the waste. Can't be helped when you use bags. Yes, there's a lot of physical labour. Now this is a clever little manoeuvre. Whoops a daisy, and up he goes. You can see he's carried a bag of flour before. Well, there we are. It's a long, old, unnecessary process, and I hate to keep on labouring the point. Well, now we come to a bit where the governor can take a hand, because there are the bins demonstrated on that panel, into the blowers and out to the tanker. And all the fellow in the warehouse would have to do, if bulk flour is being delivered, is to press a button, select a switch, and away it goes. That's that. Easy as that. Just pop down and see how the bins are. Here we are. You can see we have fiberglass bins with rotary seals underneath, which deliver the flour out of the bin into a suction line. The flour is sucked out into a receiver and then blown along another line into the tanker. There we are. There's a tanker outside being filled up. Carries a maximum of 15 tons. There's the hose which connects the tanker to the blow line. It takes about approximately 3/4 of an hour to fill up with one man. This is at the other end of the bakery where the flour is being delivered. Incidentally, although I prayed for fine weather, my prayers weren't answered, and it was piddling with rain, and the photographer had some difficulty in getting a decent picture. He just backs the vehicle up, unlocks the pipe into the bakery silo, and then he'll take the rubber pipe out from the carrier on the side of the vehicle, and connect the threaded end up to the bakery pipe. That's a 4-inch pipe, and the other unicone fitting on the clipped onto the tanker. And then he goes and starts his blower up. Well, you can see one man there is delivering 15 tons. It'll take him about 35 minutes to blow it in, and he's really got plenty of time to go back and get another load and deliver it. So he can do 30 tons in a day if the trade was there, whereas a man delivering in bags can only do about 40 tons at the most per week. So you can see that there is considerable difference. Here we are back in Geary's bakery, where we saw him handling the bags at the beginning. Since the film was taken, they have installed a bulk bin, which you can see at the back there, a metal bin, and you can see he's quite pleased about it, as he hasn't got to do any more humping. They have this metal bin, as I said earlier, with a mechanical auger to take the flour out of the bin and drop it into the weigher. There they have the weigher remote from the dough mixer, because, well, I suppose they just couldn't put it in that place. The building was of such a design it wasn't feasible. However, they saved an awful lot of time and labour, and of course it's a lot cleaner. I don't know what he's hanging around there for, because once the mixer the bowl is full, he just wheels it away, as you'll see in a minute, to the mixer. There it goes. I think he was showing off a bit, and then he brings back another one. By that time the weigher should be full up again, but unfortunately he hasn't done so. He's waiting for the light to go out. You can see the name of the firm that put that particular installation in. Here he does, he's emptying the flour into the dough bowl again, and away he goes. Well, I must say that we haven't really, the intention was not to sell one type of bulk storage over another at all. All we are concerned with is that bulk storage should be used, because it seems to me that if there is any future in the baking and milling trade, certainly in the baking trade, we must use bulk storage for conveying the flour about, because with bags it's too uneconomic. Well, you can see how much happier he is with bulk instead of bags. Well, as you can see, bulk flour is 1. Labour saving, 2. Cheaper, 3. More hygienic, 4. Less wasteful, 5. No bag disposal problem, 6. More efficient, much more efficient. So why not do it, gentlemen? Why not? Thank you very much for listening.